Welcome to Soul Searching. Our guest today is Katy Flaherty. Katy, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Nikki.
The reason I'm so excited for you guys all to meet Katy is she's really been through the epitome of doing some of the soul searching, being affected by the pandemic. At the very beginning, I remember March 4th was the last time that I saw you in person. We were together on campus. You were taking leadership program with me. And then immediately we pivoted to work from home and going virtual. And you had just started a role and then became, launched in charge of securing PPE and safety for all employees at Microsoft. So tell us about that just right at the beginning of the pandemic.
That's right, Nikki. I remember, you kind of saying, do you think we'll be here for our class next week? I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah, right when I took on, my new role, kind of leading our lobby and logistics teams for our Puget Sound Microsoft campus. COVID hit, Washington, and we just had to really quickly pivot, learning okay, how will employees need to depart campus? Yes, they do. What will that mean for, our teams, providing lobby hosts and receptionists and, asking them to leave campus and work virtual and remote, all of us had to kind of revisit, how are we going to do our meetings? What are we going to do? And I remember our next class, helping you through Teams, and how to navigate that. And gosh, it's all of us have had to adapt. And, kind of the phrase of last year that we used as a team was remain agile through it all and stay connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say, you leaned into, I don't know, a character trait or something, or that helped you to make that pivot?
One of the things I kind of my style, my DNA is more, connecting with others and making sure that connection stayed close with my team as well as, my peers. I make friends at work too. And so making sure that, first and foremost, I had to learn a new job. So I had to learn from my team and I couldn't do that in person. And so we did a lot of meetings via Teams. And I had to kind of build those relationships. And I was, and I'm in a leadership role. And so it was working with my partners and suppliers on creating that new relationship and understanding what the team actually does. And there was a lot of ownership on my logistics team, in particular, managing the PPE that we were acquiring and procuring as a company, and then, creating the inventory for that and then redistributing. But it was rewarding at the same time because we knew we were putting it back out there for our employees that were essential to keep them safe. And then Microsoft, did an amazing job donating some of those supplies to first responders. So while it was a lot of work, it was also rewarding at the same time, helping protect people as well.
Well, thank you for also, highlighting that, yes, it takes all this effort. And I really respect the humility that you talk about as a leader. And I think our listeners can be challenged by that piece of it to, ask for help and also lean into that connection, the relationship piece of it. And how do we stay inspired instead of just give, is realizing that something comes back, that rewarding and helping people. Today happens to be my brother's birthday. So I'm particularly empathetic because I know that you lost your sister, and so just thinking about kind of this work-life connection of you went through this transformation at work in the pandemic. How do you, I guess, tell us a little bit about how maybe some of that helped prepare you for this transformation and dealing with grief at the loss of your sister?
Gosh, it wasn't, something we expected to happen. No one ever wants to lose a sibling or a family member or even friend, and losing someone during the pandemic, super hard. And to be able to grieve someone during a pandemic, also very hard when you're having to social distance and, family can't come up to be in person if they're flying from another state. For example, my niece, her daughter, we had to delay our memorial, which we ended up doing as a virtual memorial. And I guess to me, everything that we had to do to stay connected in our day jobs also kind of carried over to family. And, I bought my mom an iPhone for the first time. She is not super technical. She doesn't have a computer. I work at Microsoft. I always have this like internal guilt. Mom should have a computer, but she doesn't want one.
Right.
But I was able to connect her with some technology and use FaceTime to make sure I was checking in with her. My other siblings and I connected via text, via FaceTime, via any channel that we could to make sure that we were all okay. And we came together, and thankfully I was prepared with some PPE myself to give to the family as well, so that we could meet in person. But the biggest kind of piece that I think I've seen a great job just from my own personal leadership team, the organization I'm part of, they really emphasize that checking in with each other and making that not only should you be continuing your work, obviously, but like making sure that people are okay. Because some people aren't in a family like I have a family, I have a husband, I have 2 daughters. But some people are living alone or they're far from family. And it's really, really hard to be working remote and being separate. And so making that time to connect with others, both on the personal side with family, but also with coworkers has been super important. I'm not the only person who's lost someone this last year. And I know that. And, I try to reach out to those I know might need that connection too.
Absolutely. I guess 2 things is actually I just did a workshop yesterday on how can we improve work-life balance by aligning better? And you really illustrate that as, we've got this best practice at work of like one-on-ones with our manager and, team meetings and that type of a thing and it works well to stay connected and keep communication open and build trust. And then, almost create that, not to say like, oh, okay, it's 10 to 10:30, but, being able to seeing that it is effective at work, and then how we can recreate that in our personal lives, some of that structure and process that builds that. So thank you for highlighting that. I remember one thing you said that was just so poignant. I remember, we're connected on LinkedIn and social media, and it was such a tearjerker, but you said, hugging is part of the healing process. Like that's one of the hardest parts of grieving the loss of a loved one during this time. So, you're just so vulnerable as well. And the way that you're able to express that is just so meaningful. So thank you. And I just, launched some kind of soul searching for me too. So thank you for that. You also have a unique perspective because your husband's a teacher, so, kind of seeing maybe another side of the story. I think, I work with a lot of clients and being frustrated if school's not in or that, there's not enough, et cetera. And, I think always looking at what's another side of that story. So since you kind of sit on both sides as a parent and having that in your household, I guess maybe you can share your perspective on that.
It's been such a fun experience watching my husband adapt. He's an elementary PE teacher. So to have someone in that job have to come out of the gym, out from, interacting with 500 plus students a week, to doing PE lessons, upstairs in our home, and I'm downstairs on calls and my kids are in their bedrooms doing virtual school. Like it's been just a learning experience for all of us. And we've had to adapt to each other, and we've never had this much time together. And I know a lot of people are adjusting to that balance, but I think for us, communication is the biggest key. And it's talking through our schedules much more than we did before. And, just checking in with each other, and even the kids do it. We all say, okay, I've got a 8 a.m. call this morning. So you guys need to, have breakfast and then move upstairs. And daddy's got a call at 1 o'clock with, the other teachers. And so, he's got to get back upstairs, or he's got a 12 o'clock call. So his lunch will be taken from that room. It's that communication piece is really what it comes down to. And then also the respect, respecting each other's time, and each one of our time is valuable and important. And I think we've all learned to work on that balance with each other much more than we did before.
Katy, a theme I've been hearing a lot from especially working parents who have kids at home is guilt. Either guilt as a parent that you're not doing enough, or when you do prioritize your kids and feeling guilty about work. So what advice or how have you been able to deal with that?
I don't, my guilt is not as high right now. So,
It's filled up with grief, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, right?
I traveled a lot, Nikki. Earlier, when I joined this organization, I did some traveling, and the kids were real little, like they were, younger. And so I had travel mommy guilt, if that's even a phrase. And so now
it should be, if not.
travel mommy guilt. I feel like I'm more present now than I was before. And I'm more mindful about the time I spend with them. I am trying to do a better job putting down my phone, closing my laptop, having dinner with the family, asking them how their day was. My husband and I do that together. And sometimes, it's not perfect. We are not a perfect family. But it's being mindful of that time that I do have with them, and then being honest and transparent of, mommy's got to go to work today. And this is why I'm going to work, because it's important and it's actually making a difference out in the community. When we think about, again, back to what, my team and my peers were asked to do, is just protect our employees. And now we're, partnering with some other entities, hospitals, and, other organizations, other companies, to try to help with some of these vaccination efforts. That's amazing.
Talk about purpose. Absolutely. That sounds like purpose. Yeah. And that mindfulness is a huge antidote to, that's good to know that you can cure that, guilty feeling or, so thank you.
Well, and I think the kids have done a great job. They've been real resilient through this. Like I'm super impressed with how kids have adapted to this, probably better than some of us as adults. But, I'm just honest and transparent with the kids of, this is the work, that I'm doing today. And this is kind of the bigger picture as to what it is. And I don't get as many guilty feelings or tears. Because I'm kind of just being honest with them about, this is what I do. And I love what I do. I love my job. So.
Oh, that's awesome. How do you think that you have been able to cultivate that resilience in them? Or is there a parenting principle that you've leaned into?
I think I'm a lot more organized, which is hilarious given my background. I kind of came up through Microsoft as a business administrator, and it's all about organization. I can do it much easier for someone else than myself. But, we are using Outlook calendar as a family, and we're scheduling our time together, but we're also scheduling, sports activities or piano lessons, and just becoming more organized in a house when you're together and you're doing all your meals there, and just planning, being more planful, I guess.
I love that calendar. I'm gonna have to send my family a meeting request to play Settlers of Catan or something.
It helps. It helps me in my own mind to say, here's my work time, and then here's the family time. Yes. And then once in a while, work time kind of comes back later in the evening. Yeah. But that's because I choose that, and it helps prep me for the next day. And so I'd say organization has been a big skill that I've brought up this past year.
Yeah,
for sure.
If you were to, kind of reflect on who you are, either a childhood story or just a defining moment that maybe gave you a life philosophy, I like to think of it as practical wisdom. What would you call that?
A philosophy of practical. I'm a team player. And I don't mean that lightly. I used to run cross country in high school, and I would sometimes find more joy in our races or practices when I could encourage people that were running alongside me. I'm not a runner for life. My body, got injured and shin splints and all the things. But at the end of the day, I wasn't always at the head of the pack, and I knew I probably wouldn't be sometimes, because there were other people on the team that were faster runners. They could just outrun me, basically. But I would always continue to encourage people along that race, and even people from the other teams who were struggling, because you're on trails and you're out in the middle of who knows where. But I found the joy in encouraging the team. And even when I finished my race, I would run back on the trail to keep cheering on the rest of the team. And so I think for me this past year, a lot of the work we do as an organization in real estate, and security, it takes a village. We can't, like, one person cannot do it alone, and we're not expected to do it alone. And so to me, coming together as a team and helping kind of come up with a solution and plan together has been amazing. And then celebrating each other's wins too along the way. Our leadership team does a great job highlighting the work that we do, and coming back to us and saying, hey, thank you and nice job. And I try to do the same for my teams and others around me.
You absolutely do. And I think what makes it even most authentic and meaningful is that you also, you have that bright side and encouragement and enthusiasm and joy, and also you feel all the feelings, you embrace the suck, that you can talk publicly about grief and loss and how that is too. So I think being able to have that whole range of emotions is one of your superpowers as a leader. So thank you for sharing that with us and our listeners as well. Thank you so much, Katy.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki.